official. By the way,
Bingo.
everybody, big news tonight on the Off the Lip radio show. It is officially the 400th show. We thought we'd last 5. Pretty amazing, Neil. Yeah, 400 shows. Most of them are on the internet in some form or another. We've had some amazing guests, incredible stories from people past and present. If you ever get a chance to go back and look, you'll see some of your heroes as well as mine that we've had on the show. Tonight being our 400th show, we have a special guest. We have Ryan Peters, who's a battalion chief from the Aptos Central Fire District. Is it correctly called a district?
We're in shared service right now.
Shared service?
I'm
giving
Central Fire District and Central Fire Protection District, and so I'm working for both right now.
Okay. Awesome.
So get that microphone nice and close
Got to be right
and
up
start
to you.
yelling.
We got to yell into this beautiful machine that records the show on Santa Cruz Waves Facebook page. By the way, welcome everybody to the 400th show of the Off Lip radio show. Ryan, I know obviously you've been busy based on what's been happening in our community and the tragic fire, but I know you got some other stuff you want to talk about. Neil, I know you have some history with Ryan. And some of the
We've
stuff
done a few radio shows together. That you know, and now I see him now because I've seen him in a down, you know, the bottom of the curve when things weren't so rosy, because due to issues over there in Aptos and
the politics of firefighting.
And now, you know, I see people around. I always ask how Ryan's doing, and you know, I just check on him. You know, I check on him, and he's just doing great. He's now the battalion chief with both Aptos and Central Fire.
That's right.
And I think, you know, the missus is happy. Remember when she wrote? Your wife wrote to me a big book explaining what was going on, you know, from her perspective. Yeah, it was like I never forget that letter she wrote to me.
When you're a battalion chief, you get the SUV.
So that's right. So first of all, let me say thank you for having me. I'm honored to be on the 400th show. I had no idea what I was getting myself into this morning or this afternoon. So thank you. And on behalf of all the men and women of Aptos and Central Fire Protection Districts, thank you for having me here. I'm sort of an extension of them. And in my new position as a battalion chief, I just started, so I'm new as a battalion chief. I've been with Aptos for 20 years. But in that position, you know, my job is to basically support the operation. And so I am in the SUV. You'll see me in the red SUV driving around. So we cover all of Live Oak, Soquel, Capitola, Aptos, Rio Del Mar, and La Selva Beach.
Right.
So we have about 70 members who are work on the line, and we have 7 stations scattered around our district now. So yes, politics are always going to be a part of our world, and we've seen that this year more than anything, up and down in terms of national issues and local issues. So, but I'm here today basically to talk about our community and where we are this summer and what we're facing with what took place up in the San Lorenzo Valley.
I will say, I've got to be honest with you, TC.
Okay.
The reason
you mean you're not always honest?
No, I'm honest. I'm
Okay,
honest with
this
you.
right now.
But the reason he's here, I mean, he's the only guy who got his phone number. Right. I got Ryan's cell phone number.
We just made it sound like it was so important.
The other 74 guys in his team, I don't have a number. So I call him.
But then he got the big promotion, so we actually have brass here.
Oh yeah, we got
so that's important. Yeah.
Well, it's good to be here, and we've had a busy summer already, as you guys know, and we're, you know, it's just telling the crews, you know, and everybody's already aware, you know, fire season's extending later and later into the fall and even into the holiday season.
Well, it seems to me with the fire, just real quick, Neil, I was going to say is, you guys are already pretty short-handed, aren't you, before we have a major fire like this? Because I see trucks from everywhere here right now. Luckily, like, you guys loan each other your stuff, but you don't have enough people to fight a fire like that.
Not locally. So on any kind of expanding large incident like we had that started on August 16th after that lightning storm we had, which in itself was very unique to this area, right? We won't have enough resources to handle that sort of incident, as dynamic as it was given the weather conditions. So what we'll do is we'll basically put a request out for any kind of resource, fire suppression resources we can get our hands on that the state and that the state can send us, and that's going to be state resources, and they're also going to partner with and an agreement that the California Fire Service has to reach out to neighboring agencies all across the state. And now we're starting to see resources from out of the state and even out of the country.
It's amazing.
So once you get the resource, everyone agrees to come help out. You've got, you know, trucks coming from LA and trucks coming from all over.
Yeah.
Who organize? I mean, obviously you have to organize. How do you organize fighting a fire like that with the population that I mean that took over towns, Ben Lomond and Boulder Creek?
It's basically the state jurisdiction in that area, so the state starts to organize that through the Office of Emergency Services. So OES will start organizing that response. But remember that night we had lightning strikes not just in our area; it was all over
Everywhere.
the entire state, specifically the central and northern part of the state. So I believe at one point we had just shy of 400 different fires burning in that time frame, and we just the entire state was strapped for resources. So we had a limited response anyway, and we were talking about it at our morning briefing. We do morning conference calls every morning for when our shift starts, and Chief Walbridge, who's our one of our chiefs at Central, was talking about the amount of personnel we would normally have. Right now we have just over 2,000 people up there assigned to the incident. Normally we'd have about 5,000 for an incident like this.
Wow.
And for the initial attack phase, which is like the first few days of this incident, I mean, we had much less than that. We just did not have the resources to tackle such a dynamic incident.
So where do you go? Where do you start? With what you have to operate with, where do you start? Because there's 400 fires all over the place. Where do you begin?
So all of our local resources, you know, we still have a job to do on our home front.
Mhm.
So we still have to cover our local districts, the city of Santa Cruz, Scotts Valley, Watsonville, and the other areas. Our district, we still have an agreement with our communities to maintain fire service and medical service. So we'll send as many units as we can. And at one point we had 6 different crews up there, 6 engines. And that was just between Aptos Central. So Santa Cruz sent engines, Scotts Valley, Watsonville. Every agency in this county sent engines up initially to help the San Lorenzo Valley. Their volunteer agencies, everybody there was working. So we'll send everybody we can and still maintain service back here. And now we're going to rely on neighboring agencies outside the county. So it can seem, I think, to a lot of people like it's a slow process, like the response is slow, but we are getting responses here as quickly as possible. And the response for what we had available was pretty good. It's just that we didn't have, the speed of the response was good, but the weight in terms of the amount of resources we could access just wasn't accessible.
You know something interesting? My daughter lives in Bend, Oregon, and her neighbor owns 2 fire trucks, and they're like hotspot trucks. They're small ones, and he when there's a need, he like rents them
Yeah.
to the firefighters in Oregon. He sent his trucks down here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so he's the two. My daughter's neighbor's 2 trucks are up there fighting the fire on the hill. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, in California, there's a lot of people who are, I think, buying old, decommissioned fire engines to use on their property to protect their property.
Good idea.
It's actually not a bad idea. Yeah. So, and if you think about it, with the destructive fires we've had just in the last 5 years, like I said earlier, we still have a lot of work ahead of us in terms of the fire season, and that's one of the messages I want to get out to the community here is we just need to be ready. And this incident that took place, we've seen fire like the Traebing fire, the Summit fire, the Lockheed, and the Martin fire. We have large fires that take place here, even with the marine layer and even with the coastal hills and the ocean influence. Things can still line up, and in fact, this weekend, we're looking at another heat wave. So I just want one of the messages is just everybody to maintain readiness and awareness, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I wanted to make sure that everybody's ready for fire season as it extends into November
So
regularly.
once this fire here comes off the news we see on Channel 8 or whatever, we don't think it's the end of the fire season. We're halfway through the fire season. It can happen again tomorrow morning.
Yeah, and again, we just need to be realistically, we just need to take a systematic and realistic approach to the fact that we live in California, that the climate has changed, and we are seeing fires that burn with more intensity and more dynamic, and we're seeing fires that take place in the urban interface where we have more and more people moving out to areas outside the cities where the risk for fire goes up. And so this last incident was different in terms of just that it was caused by lightning. And it happened so quickly that you know, it was one of those incidents that really demanded a swift response. And so we still have several personnel up there, with several engines up there. We have, in fact, as we're speaking, we have 2 of our engine companies are up there working right now as we speak. And even though the fire is mostly out, there's still a lot of perimeter work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done.
How do they, that's what I was, another question. How do they measure the containment? You say, oh, the fire is now 3% contained. Is that, is this a guess, or now it's 45% contained? How do they measure
it's
that
not
containment?
Yeah, it's not a guess at all. The fire perimeter gets broken up into divisions and branches, and so each operational period, which is 24 hours, so they'll send crews out to each division around the fire's edge for 24 hours. And those crews will do work and create containment lines, and they'll basically create perimeter control and protect structures. And basically every fire, even if it's out at the time they're doing the work, you still have to contain it and perimeter lines and do control lines. So they'll basically do their best. It's not necessarily a guess, but they'll report in terms of how much perimeter control lines they put in, and then they'll calculate it out and they'll come up with a percentage. So, and I think we're up to 46%.
You have notes here. TC and I don't do notes.
I'm cheating.
He's got notes.
He's got the September 2nd update.
Yeah,
so
can you give us the September 2nd update?
So where we're at now is we're at 85,467 acres that have burned in total. This is an incident that also takes place over 2 counties, so Santa Cruz and southern San Mateo County. And right now it's about 46% contained. So there's a lot of work to still be done, and it's still, you know, we still, with the weather changing this weekend, they're still being diligent. They're starting to release some of the out-of-county crews that have come to help, but we're still maintaining a pretty significant force of people up there to continue perimeter control and just continue the efforts that are going on up there. But this has been an active incident for over 2 weeks now. And we have just over 2,000 personnel. Just some interesting stats. We have almost 180 fire engines, 12 helicopters, 50 hand crews, 12 dozers. And again, that is not nearly what we would have normally on an incident like this, but it's still significant. So
it's much less than you normally have.
It is.
Is that because of the state budget?
Not necessarily.
No?
It's just the amount of incidents taking place across the state right now.
Right. So
yeah.
Okay, I get
so
it.
it's not necessarily
Yeah.
that's always like politics. There's always that issue.
Right.
But really, everybody's stretched so thin.
Too many fires going on at one time.
Too many fires going on at one time. That's correct. So, but what we're hoping for is that we can get that 100% containment, and that's going to be, you know, we're prepared to be involved locally. All of our agencies are going to be involved in some way, shape, or form over the next couple of months, probably, as this thing plays out.
Watching the news, I saw a couple of firefighters say they'd never seen anything like it. Never seen anything so powerful. Were you able to? Yeah,
so I talked
see it for yourself?
I talked to a couple of crews who had been up there. One of our engine companies was on our wildland 4-wheel drive engines. We call it Type 3 engine, which is a wildland 4-wheel drive engine. That crew talked about, they were up there from the onset, and they talked about some extremely dynamic fire behavior that they had not seen in the coastal mountains here. And they, you know, these are people that have been all over the state, up to Lake County, up to Napa, Southern California, and they reported some of the most dynamic fire behavior that they've seen in their careers. Wow. And they report and with the lack of resources, they were just doing the best they could. And so, when we initially arrive on any scene, our first priority is life safety, and not only life safety of our citizens, but of ourselves. And it really boiled down to you know, checking residences for people that might still be there, and then trying to do the best they could to protect structures that they could safely make access to. But the fire was moving so quickly, and not only during the daytime, but even at night, fire behavior would pick up at nighttime regularly, and it was very dangerous. So.
Does the marine layer help at all? I mean, you see
humidity.
Huh?
Humidity.
Humidity. So
No
it does
question.
help.
Yeah. So I think everybody listening remembers that a few days into this incident, we had the weather service and the local meteorologists on the incident were predicting a potential for more thunderstorms.
Right,
and
it
lightning.
was Sunday, a couple of Sundays ago.
In fact, the morning briefing that morning was preparing everybody involved in the incident for real dynamic wind conditions, especially overnight, along with additional lightning strikes. So there's a sort of a collective anxiety, not only from citizens in the county, because we're all so tied to this incident, because it's such a small county, but the firefighting force was sort of, we were all prepared for the worst.
Right.
And that was the night where things really turned a corner in terms of us making some headway, because that weather event never materialized like they were predicting, thankfully, and we were able to go on offense and really do some aggressive perimeter control that night, and they did some great work up there.
How do you, go ahead, Steve.
Oh, no, I was gonna say I told you earlier we had an engine company from LA County here yesterday, and they were telling me they were mainly in Bonnie Doon for 12 days, and they went home today. They sent 5 engines, 25 altogether from LA. He was saying, a few numbers that I got. But one of the things he told me is I asked him how things were going, and the whole crew, and he said there was areas that the fire was so hot that telephone poles turned into dust.
Right.
Yeah, I saw.
Dust. And he said all the insulation on the wires is gone. And he said to me something that was so gnarly. He goes, I think 20% may not grow back. He said some of the redwood trees were amazing.
Yeah.
There's areas that he says next year will be green and beautiful. But he said about 20%, this is what his
Right.
experience was. He said 20% is just devastated.
Right.
Correct. Yes.
My question is, how do you keep the confidence level up for the firefighters up there? Obviously, they're working God knows how many hours, and you talk about that, how things may change, it gets worse, and gets better, and gets worse.
Yeah.
How do the firefighters maintain their confidence level to be able to go to battle?
In this particular occasion, we talked about this. Our crews were talking about this, and just to add a little bit of context, my folks, been up in Ben Lomond for 40 years, and that's one of the areas I grew up when I was a kid, and so basically a lot of us have that. We have that in common. A lot of the people I work with, a lot of the people that we see every day here, either live there, have family that lives there, friends that live up there. It's such a small community, and so to answer that question, it was easy to stay motivated to even work long hours, because this was in our backyard.
Right.
We were talking about protecting our neighbors' homes and protecting lives and property, the people we know and people we're close to. But it's never an issue to stay motivated. I mean, I think when you sign up to do this job, there's so much pride that you take it's such a noble profession. We're also proud to be able to do this. It's such a privilege to serve the community. This job is a career that will literally, it goes by so quickly. And there are ups and downs, as we've discussed before.
Yeah.
But the highs are so tremendously just great in terms of your ability to have a positive effect on the community.
Let's say you having dinner with your family 6 months ago. Just you're up there buying you having dinner. Do they not real? I mean, when I saw the lightning strike, I'm like, holy shit, this is going to be this hits where I think it's going to hit. We're toast. It doesn't seem like anybody was prepared or talked about it before. That living up there and up in the hills, a situation like happened at Paradise can very, very easily happen down here.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. We had when that lightning event was moving in, it was Saturday or Sunday morning, Saturday night into Sunday morning, and my family and I had some text messages back and forth about the lightning, and I actually went down to above Seabright to check it out. I mean, it was a really spectacular show.
It was amazing.
However, it wasn't long after where we were sort of collectively dreading the possibility of fires.
Right.
It was and because it had been, I think that day where I live in Seabright, it was over 100 degrees, which is unusual for Santa Cruz.
Right,
so everything really lined up, and that's what we talk about in the fire service with wildland firefighting is when things line up, things can get really dynamic, and that's exactly what took place.
When does someone like the governor call in like more resources like the National Guard? Do you guys are you looking for like the National Guard? or
But yeah, so in this case, I'm under the impression that California is actually up there in maybe a small capacity, but they are up there to help out. One of the issues they're also facing is not just fire damage, but the infrastructure damage in terms of utilities, water supply, electrical, phone and cable lines. Those are big issues that is one of the reasons that they're holding some of the rehoming for Bonnie Doon and Boulder Creek residents, because there's some basic services that need to be restored.
I got the dumbest question of the night, TC. You probably answer. If I don't have the answer to it, you have to use fresh water to fight the fire, right? Can they get those buckets out of the helicopters? Can you get them out of the ocean?
Sure, it's all about cooling that fire. It doesn't.
Oh, really? So I thought they were looking for, you see them flying here. You see them up at Davier, you're getting water out of the pond up there, and certain at Loch Lomond and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you can go to the ocean and get the water.
You can if you need to. Yeah.
Sure.
Probably depends upon the conditions, I guess, a little ocean.
Yeah, I think it's easier, it'd be safer for aircraft to dip into like Loch Lomond.
Right.
It's a little more as far as weather and predictability in terms of just visibility and access and stuff like that. So.
You know what I haven't heard about is, maybe you can answer this, Ryan, is injuries to firefighters. Normally that's a statistic that you hear. I haven't heard anything. Are we good in that department?
We are good. We thankfully I think we had early on, there were a couple minor injuries to first responders, but we've had no significant serious injuries that I'm aware of. So
That's awesome.
That's great
The
news.
community came through, what happened at Fairgrounds and Twin Lakes Church, and there's definitely a lot of support, a lot of people a lot of people in the community chipped in to help out as much as they could.
I've seen it here at the shop, because a lot of people lost everything. And so many friends of people who lost everything and neighbors have come in to get a couple of t-shirts and help out their neighbors.
Right.
That it's been really shows the quality of this town and the people who are here.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you're getting that. When I was out here on the street with that LA engine yesterday with those guys, a guy pulled up in his car, skids to stop, jumps out and goes, "I want to buy all you guys a coffee." That's what he said to him.
He
Right?
did?
Yeah, and then the guys on that engine, they said to me, and I told you this earlier, Ryan, that they said they couldn't believe how nice everybody was in this town towards them, and the support and the encouragement they got. They said it was amazing.
Yeah, and in fact, I saw a strike team. A strike team is basically five fire engines. So I saw a strike team down in Capitola, Los Angeles County firefighters, and I stopped and talked to them for a little bit. Said thank you as a local, non-fire service person, just as a Santa Cruz County local.
Right.
And the fact that my family's one of the lucky ones. My folks were able to go home, and I'm just very appreciative of the fact that they have a place to go home to, and we feel for the people that have lost so much, but for those people to travel all the way up here to help out, and we've done the same for them, and we will probably. Just being realistic, but we could see ourselves sending our crews down to them, in sometime in the near future.
Well, that's what these guys told me yesterday.
Right.
They said, we're here because next month when we have the Santa Ana winds, we're going to need you guys.
That's correct. And when we get later into the fall, that's when the Santa Ana's down there pick up, and we've been down there. We routinely sent crews down there. We had crews down there at the Thomas Fire, which took place in December, and they had temperatures and wind chill down into, I think, the single digits. They had pumps and hose freezing and things, but they still had active fire behavior because it may have been cold, but the humidities were in single digits, and it was really windy with the winds we're talking about. So again, our fire seasons are extending, and we'll go wherever we're asked to go. We'll travel all the way up to, we've gone up to Shasta. We've been really busy in the northern part of the state the last few years, going up to Sonoma and Napa and Lake County. But yeah, we'll go everywhere.
What do you said people still have to be prepared. What do you advise people to do that have homes up there now? What can they do to make themselves safer?
So the big one, we were, a couple of my members back at we were talking as this incident was unfolding. One of the things I think we're really going to start focusing on, I know our Community Risk Reduction Bureau, our Prevention Bureau, basically, we have a bureau that looks at mitigating and try to prevent these kind of things from happening. And one of the things that we've been talking about is how can we prepare for things like evacuating? Like,
Right.
what are the things we can do to be really ready for this type of thing? And I think what we need to do as a community is start looking to each other as different communities and neighborhoods, start looking to each other to take some initiative and identify some people who'd like to lead an effort to partner with the fire service, so we can come up with a plan to not only mitigate and prevent wildland fire, but to really, if it's going to happen, and let's just admit it, it's going to happen. I think that's clear, but we need to have a plan to get people out, because our first priority is life safety.
Yeah.
We need to be able to safely get people out. If we need, if that's, if we have an incident where people need to evacuate, we need to be able to do it safely.
Right.
I think at the campfire we saw evacuation efforts take place, and because that was such a fast-moving incident, it was a disastrous effort to they did all they could basically, but we need to make sure we address the evacuation piece so people can safely get out, so we can get in there and do our job and do it safely and effectively. So that's one of the things we're looking at, and that's one of the things I'd advise communities and small neighborhoods that live up in the valley or anywhere where the wildland is in their backyard, is to address access and
Right.
a pre-plan basically for safety.
Will each of your fire stations have address the public? They can, maybe a meeting they can come to, and so they can learn what the evacuation, how to evacuate, or learn what they need to do to combat these fires.
Absolutely. I mean, we have you can come to a board meeting. You can come and just show up at any fire station. Is probably the best thing, is just come and talk to an engine company, or come talk to me. You can set up appointments.
Right.
We can start talking about what that particular community the needs are and what kind of things we can do, and we'll send folks up and have a look at where you live, or we'll get the whatever agency is responsible for your area. We'll make sure that we can get people up there that can come up and start helping with the plan.
Right.
And I think that's where we can make some big differences. All the areas on the mountainside or the inland side of Highway 1 are areas that we need to really start addressing, from Santa Cruz all the way down into Watsonville. Like the Trading Road area, we saw what can happen there.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to address that kind of incident moving forward here.
There's more education needed because there's way more houses up there now.
Yes, indeed.
When everything down here in the flats is $1 million or $2 million, the growth is going to be up there.
Correct.
One thing I just wanted to mention, Neil, is this brought back, and I don't think it's been in the forefront, in the limelight since the Loma Prieta earthquake, is the importance of the Santa Cruz Fairgrounds.
Yes.
And the state stopped funding fairgrounds, and we've almost lost that resource. And I think it's so important for our community to remember how valuable that is, and to be aware of the needs to keep it open, because it is such a vital resource for a disaster.
Absolutely, and not only that, but for the large animal relocating, everybody with livestock, horses,
Right.
and whatnot. That's been a big piece. That was a huge issue logistically at the Traebing fire, where we had people trying to move out their horses, and when you're trying to do that in quick order, it's not only difficult, but it's dangerous as well.
Well, narrow roads, you're getting engines in, they're getting trailers out, and it can be a difficult situation. And to me, that's part of that education you were
Right.
talking about, Neil. How important it is to get people, I guess, to react quickly and listen to the
Well, if you have
warnings.
a plan, it's much of that,
Yeah.
sort of free for all.
So for example, I told my folks, we've been up there for so long, just with what I do for a living, and just my advice to them is, hey, let's have a ready box or a to-go box where you
Right.
let's get the things that
That was
are
quick,
important. Yeah, basically, just so if the evacuation warning and the evacuation order comes in, you're ready to go. So just those mental preparations, that you're just not caught where you're not ready.
Right.
I just think that a bit of readiness goes a long way.
Well, people too thought it's just a precaution. We'll evacuate. We'll be back in 3 hours,
Right.
and their home's gone.
Correct.
And I think and so many people that was their mindset. This is inconvenient. We'll come back, and that's unfortunate.
Right.
So you see the fire map, how the red came close to Santa Cruz on the west side and UCSC, right? are we safe here in town? Would the fire stop essentially at, you know, Western Drive right there where the houses kind of begin? Or would you, if you guys hadn't contained it, could the fire have come into town at all?
It would have taken an unprecedented, first of all, the weather would have had to be absolutely perfectly conducive for fire to not only move into the city limits, but then spread house to house.
The big
it would have had to absolutely been a unprecedented type weather event. Things would have had, the planets would have had to align for that to happen. Now, could the fire have moved toward town into the UCSC area? Absolutely. In fact, they were preparing for that, and they put in some large contingency lines just north of the campus off Empire Grade there. But they absolutely, you know, when we started addressing an incident like this, we're going to build contingency lines when we're planning this out, because we're not just thinking of the current moment. We're thinking, what's this fire going to do in another hour, another day, another week? And so we'll build contingency lines and plan around them.
What's a contingency line?
Basically, we'll try to build a box around the incident, and we'll do that with any type of fire. We'll keep it contained.
Okay.
So
are you essentially fighting fire with fire?
That's one of the tactics that we'll do, is we'll fire out or we'll burn fuel between important areas to basically protect structures or build stronger containment lines. So that's something that we'll do only when the weather helps cooperate, helps us, so we can do that effectively, and not only effectively but safely too.
Do the firemen, let's say you're up there battling the fire, or your crew, how long do you leave them out there for? I mean, can they stay as long as they want, or no, you got to stop. You've been out here 10 hours or 12 hours. How do you work that?
That's a good question, and so back on the home front, we work 48-hour shifts. So I'll go to work.
But fighting a fire though.
But when you get deployed up to the incident, you're going to work for initial attack. When everybody up there, you're just going to be fighting fire and doing the best you can with what you have. And you could be, it could be, I think crews were up there initially for 3 days straight fighting fire. They were fatigued. Obviously, the more fatigued you are, the more dangerous it is in terms of just your situational awareness. So after a few days, they were rotated off the incident when more crews showed up, and then they basically, the incident will try to rotate people in for 24 hours. So you'll go up in the morning, you'll get briefed, and you'll be on a division for 24 hours, and in the morning you'll come off the line, and you'll basically eat, and then you'll rest for 24 hours, and then they'll put you out. So we had crews up there for 2 weeks straight.
When this first, where did everyone first go? Where did you first take off to?
I believe they went up to Bonnie. We had units all over the place, but it was the main areas were obviously Bonnie Dune, and then north of Boulder Creek near the golf course. Right. Yeah. So obviously we're going to focus our efforts on where we're going to make the greatest positive impact in terms of life safety and protecting property. Those are our first two priorities.
And you got a lot of help from the sheriff and CHP, I would imagine.
Right. So that's another good question. That's another good question, because when it comes to evacuations, we're going to partner with law enforcement. They're going to handle that piece for us, so we can go to work and address the fire.
Right. So you guys you're just strictly fighting fire.
Yeah.
They're looking for looters and all the other pieces.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, and that's not just unique to this incident. We've seen that in other incidents around the state.
It's the worst.
It's unfortunate, to say the least.
Yeah.
So hard to believe, actually.
Yeah.
But law enforcement is a huge piece to this, and we partner with them and them helping us coordinate, moving people. And they're helping us save lives by getting people out of there.
So once this is over, and you get back to you sit in front of the higher ups, how do you guys think you did?
Well, I think they did great work, and I know there was a tremendous amount of loss up there.
But you can't help that.
But with the amount of resources we had and the dynamic nature of this incident, our crews did unbelievably good work. There was a lot of property saved by the efforts up there. There was a tremendous amount of risk that they took to do the job they needed to do.
Right.
And that's basically what we do for a living, is assess and manage risk. And we did the best we could, and they did they really did a great job. So it was.
It's how it started too. I mean, I had this thought about the lightning. Normally, someone on the side of the road and the fire starts, and you have an access point. But when there's 11 different fires going off, and it was from random lightning strikes in the middle of nowhere, by the time you can even have access to that fire, right, it could be out of control.
Because the terrain is
The terrain, the fuel model, the type of fuel that we're dealing with up there, heavy timber, the access, and you know, those are the big things we look at are fuel types, the topography, and the weather, and everything really just lined up for a worst case scenario, really. And so even with let's just say we had a normal response to that, there would have still been a lot of loss, I believe, just with the nature of the incident. So really, you guys touched on a good point, is the access to some of the areas, especially up near Big Basin and Butano State Park up there, is really...
GPS isn't working up there, right? It's not, right?
The guys were talking about how that, and I guess one or two cell towers were damaged as well, with how quickly the fire moved. So communications in terms of like cell service and GPS, knowing exactly where you're at, which is a critical point to safety. Some of that stuff was challenging, for sure.
You know what's crazy is my wife and I love going to Big Basin, and the last time we were up there was a few months ago, and I was shocked by how much fuel's on the floor in that forest. I mean, it really, it's insane, and I don't know when the last time they had a fire in Big Basin, and so it's no surprise to me the damage that resulted from having fire nearby there.
Yeah, and we, the last couple of falls, we've had fires up just above Santa Cruz at Highway 9 corridor near Paradise Park, and we watched, fully mature redwoods torching, and it's just an indicator of drought-stressed fuels, and just the fact that when the conditions align themselves, we're going to see very active fire, even if we're just a mile from the coast. So that's something that our residents now, I think we all know that. It's just how ready are we going to be for the next one.
Be ready.
It amazes me that my president says that we need to rake, and said that he's not going to, because California's not nice to him, he's not going to send federal aid and stuff. As a firefighter, just trying to protect everybody, is it frustrating to you to get like those kind of messages, whether it's from any politician, but to politicize saving lives and fighting fire?
Yeah, it is frustrating, but I think our members are they're so professional. They're going to go in whatever the conditions might be, whether the land is managed a certain way or it's unmanaged. Our strategy and our tactics might change a little bit, but we're still going to be aggressive.
Yeah.
As aggressive as we can, as safely as we can.
So give 125%.
We try to tune that out a little bit. I'll say that.
Right. That's probably
we just are going to go to work, and our members are going to continue to do that. So.
Well, I think about you saying your family lives up there, and if the fire was going through Ben Lomond, I mean, you are fighting a fire to save your family. I don't care what's going on. That's what you're going to go in there 100%.
Yeah, and so we had members who were off duty, and we had members of other agencies around the Bay Area who were off duty, who happened to either live there or have family that lives there. So there was a large amount of off-duty firefighters who were helping out off the clock, just being a member of the community, helping because it was their backyard.
Right.
And so, again, to segue back to the effort we saw in Boulder Creek and Ben Lomond was amazing. It's just because we have so much is at stake up there. Our families live there. So
that's a kind of a segue to my next question is, I would love to get a shovel and go up there and shovel. I know it's something that's training a lot and so forth, but it seems like I grew up in a town with a volunteer fire department. But as a resident of this community and a proud resident of this community, I would put a jacket on, some boots, and go up there and shovel in the future if there was a need and a way to coordinate that. It seems to me like there'd be a lot of people like me that would want to do that.
I think especially now.
Yeah,
especially now. Yeah.
That's a 9/11. It's a Loma Prieta. It's a take pride in your community. And I want to help.
Would you leave? Would you stick around and try and protect your house?
If the fire was coming,
yeah,
I would protect my family
right.
and my neighbors, and then worry about the house later.
Right.
You know.
We had reports of multiple residents, some in the Bonnie Doon area, that elected to stay put up to like the last second. But I talked to a couple residents up there who managed their land well. They had clearance around defensible space around their home. They had good turnarounds for fire department resources. They had water supply.
Yeah.
And even in a relatively protected and managed and safe area of property, they described the sound the fire was making when it got nearby.
Jet engine.
And they told me they never wanted to hear that sound again. And that when fire is moving through an area
Like a box
unchecked,
train.
and the weather conditions and the fuel conditions and everything, like I keep saying, when everything lines up, it really is something to be respected.
Yeah.
I was
So-
impressed. Yesterday, these guys from LA were saying to me there was a few houses they went to that the owners left out bottled waters, left notes where the bathroom was. Like, I was pretty impressed
Right.
to see how these homeowners, as they're leaving, they're actually thinking about who's going to be there later to save their house. And I was like, wow, that's
so
cool.
There was that photograph of the video of the fireman watering the guy's plants.
Right? Yeah. You watered the tomatoes.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well, it was cool to see that people on their way out were thinking that way.
Yeah.
Here's my final question. Here's our final question, TC.
For the 400th show.
Yeah, 400 show. Okay. I want you to explain the ink that we can see.
Oh.
I want an explanation. The ink that we, not the one on your ass.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that.
The ink that we can see. Can you explain that?
This here.
Can you put it in the camera?
I
there?
got it right here. This is
Let me get the microphone up there. That is my badge number, number 54.
Okay.
And just as you know, as a matter of pride,
Yeah.
I'm proud of what I do.
Good.
And so I have that on my wrist there. So that's pretty much the backstory on that. But that's my number at work,
Very
and
cool.
that's my helmet shield number. And
Well, number 54. We're glad you came on the show.
Yeah.
Today. Thank you very much.
thank you for like I said to the guys yesterday. Thank you for taking care of people and
Yeah.
making people feel safer.
pleasure, and just to give a shout to
Yeah,
my
say
folks.
thank you to the guys back at the station.
Aptos Salva firefighters, the Central Protection, the Central firefighters, 3605, 3535, and all the Santa Cruz, Scotts Valley, Branson 40, San Lorenzo Valley, Watsonville. We're such a close-knit group. We're different in name only, but we basically all respond together when the big incident happens, and I couldn't be more privileged and fortunate to work with these. They're really so. Thank you for having me, and
You're very welcome.
And it's been great.
Say
Thanks for
thanks.
having me on the 400.
Yeah, right.
I appreciate it.
400.
I feel very lucky.
Hey, thanks to the guys too. Action. Tell them
Absolutely.
thank you very, very much.
Will do.
Cool.
Thank you.
TC, you want to point that at me? I'm going to read these things
You
right
got
here.
it. Let's talk about some of our sponsors.
Here we go. Lori Palmos Malley is a Santa Cruz native, avid surfer, and successful realtor with Culver Banker. She knows the local market as well as anyone. I recommend her for all your real estate needs. Find her on Facebook as Lori Palmos Malley or Instagram at Realtor Lady Lori, or call her at 831-566-9781. I've been staying out of here because I've got to lose weight, TC. Surf City Sandwich. TC, love the sandwiches. I just, but the, God damn, I put, every time I go in there, I put on 20 pounds. For
So
crying out loud.
you're up to the Corona 20 now?
Yeah,
Is that what you're
I
saying?
got on my surfboard.
Is that
the
the
other day.
Corona
Last time I
10?
got my surfboard the other day. I go, what the hell's wrong with it?
You sank a little on that
That
thing?
thing was sinking like a freaking submarine. I want to thank Merge 4 Socks. I want to thank Cindy from Merge 4. I want to thank Chill Out Cafe. I did have one this morning, TC.
You rolled the fatty
I
up
rolled the
there?
fatty across the street at
All
Chill
right.
Out Cafe. Beach Nest Vacation Rentals. Let me tell you, those guys can't. The Beach Nest Vacation Rentals, also owned by John, they canceled all the vacationers coming to Santa Cruz. So all their 50 houses were available for the evacuees. That is freaking cool. People's Coffee. I want to thank Curtis and People's Coffee down the street. Pizza One and Aptos. Where did I go? Oh, I went to Rosie at KSC the other day. I took her a pizza from Pizza One. She loved it.
Nice.
Jamie Jansen from Santa Cruz Core and Rehab. Thanks so much for sponsoring the show. I saw Numa today. Aloha Island Grill. Say hi to Numa. He is doing good.
All right.
Business is good.
Have you talked about Sean Rovi yet?
Oh, I went and saw Sean Rovi.
What's going on with the shark
He's
bracelet?
coming on the show.
Is he going to talk about his shark bracelet? He has to bring it.
He's coming on the show. The shark bracelet is a bunch of bullshit.
Well, we're going to do some research on this. I'm
You know what?
going to get a tank and a shark, and we're going to stick his ankle in it.
My friend Richard Grode, who I think you met Richard, was surfing Sandal the other day. and he was only out for like 5 minutes, and there he fin.
Shark.
Yeah, he decided to make a U-turn and he left. I want to thank Sean Roebuck from Farmers Insurance. Rogue pies, yes sir. Got those in the fridge.
And you're wondering why your surfboard sinks.
This is gonna kill you, TC. The wave clock. I want to thank Craig Jones from the Wave Clock. TheWaveClock.com. It's a great gift to give to your fisherman, your surfer, or boater. And last but not least, our newest sponsor, the delicious Holy Smokes Barbecue.
Oh, good grief.
Best barbecue in town at the East Cliff Shopping Center is now for dine-in service, curbside pickup. The delicious menu options, daily specials. Visit Holy Smokes Country Barbecue and Catering.com.
And that's pretty new business over there, right?
Yeah.
Holy Smokes.
It's owned by a family, the brothers and the daughters.
We got to go visit Holy Smokes.
We're going into Holy Smokes.
Yeah, let's go check them out.
And I want to thank those, our newest sponsor. And the Kayak Connection. Great time right now to just relax, get on the water, have a good time, go rent a kayak at the Santa Cruz Harbor or at Moss Landing.
Elkhorn Sloughs.
Elkhorn Slough.
That's amazing.
And the listening staff for your custom-made surfer's earplugs. While the surf is flat, here's the worst I've seen. It's been flat for a month.
South swell. Shh. It's coming. Shh. Don't tell anybody, Neil.
Once again, I want to thank Mr. Ryan Peters from Aptos Fire Department. Aptos,
Thank you, Ryan.
now also Central Fire. Battalion chief, and he's the only guy who can get down here because he's the only guy with his phone number.
And when you see him driving around the SUV, give him a wave.
Give him a high five.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.